Nick Saban is a narcissist. He's not getting his way, so he's decided to pout and act up. My daddy taught me that if you lie, you get slapped upside the head, and maybe somebody should slap Nick Saban upside the head. These are just a few of the quotes from Jimbo Fisher's press conference today about Alabama head coach Nick Saban. Boy, oh boy, do we have a hot, juicy, steamy topic for today's video. So hot, in fact, that I didn't want to discuss this in the studio because I was afraid that it was just going to heat the room up too much. So yes, we're walking around outside. Boy, oh boy. Everybody in the college football world is discussing this topic. The things that Nick Saban said in regards to the NIL and calling out specific players and teams for buying players and or cheating. I wasn't going to make a video about this. We're going to dive deep. Let me tell you, I even made notes for this one. So this is super serious. And I want to see your responses about this. I don't expect this to get a ton of views, but I want to see every single one of you leaving a comment and giving me an opinion about this subject. Because the world of college football as we know it was already changing when this NIL stuff was implemented. But it's taking a drastic turn and potentially a really bad one after the last few days, the things that have happened and went on. I wasn't going to make a video about it because I realized that everybody has made a video about this already. But then I really sat back and thought, can I really call myself a college football YouTuber if I don't talk about this? And plus, it might give me an opportunity to say a few bad words about Nick Saban. So once I realized that, I was like, you could tell in my voice, I got excited, right? I was like, you know what? Let's do this thing. Let's talk. So Nick Saban does some type of interview. I'll play a clip of it up on the screen.
A&M bought every player on their team, made a deal for name, image, and likeness. We didn't buy one player.
And he specifically calls out Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M and says that they bought every player in their 2021 recruiting class. Now, I've made some comments about this as well, so I can't really talk any trash about that or say anything. But I feel like it changes things a little bit. Let's get away from the road. I feel like it changes things a little bit when another head coach calls out a head coach, right? It's almost like there's this sort of unwritten rule. Like, you might make some remarks or some comments, but you keep it kind of vague. But Nick Saban didn't do that. He name dropped. He said Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M. And now here's the thing. When it comes to all this NIL stuff, Nick Saban has been calling out specific teams. Nick Saban has mentioned Miami. And that's why I feel like this is an important topic to discuss. Yes, Nick Saban has called out the University of Miami when it comes to this NIL stuff. He called out Deion Sanders at Jackson State and many others I've seen him make remarks about. But this time, Coach Nick Saban might have crossed the line because he really aggravated and upset Jimbo Fisher when he made this comment. So I have a few topics specifically that I want to discuss about this and some of the things that Jimbo Fisher said about Nick Saban. So why would Nick Saban be making such a big deal about all of this NIL stuff? Me personally, I'm just going to go ahead and get it out of the way and say this towards the beginning of the video. I honestly think Nick Saban wants the NIL stuff to be regulated so that way he can go back to doing things under the table and have a clear-cut advantage. Because with the NIL, it does level the playing field, right? And I think that, he had a process. He had a way that he went about doing things that was proven. And he knows that he could go right back to doing that, and the NCAA will just turn the other cheek. They will look the other way and act like nothing happened. They didn't see anything. And I feel like that for years and years, that has in fact been the case. And I think that, this is a little bit of Nick Saban possibly being upset because now, look at last year. Texas A&M went, 8-4? Yeah, they did beat Alabama, but they went like 4-4 in the SEC, and they had the #1 recruiting class over guess who? Alabama. So I do feel like that it definitely upsets him a bit. Now, I don't look at me as the bad guy, but I'm just trying to be honest here. We gotta look under every rock here. Nick Saban has been very vocal in saying that he's not against NIL. That he's not. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that. But he does want it regulated in some sort of way, which goes back to what I just said. I think so it could go back to, basically he wants it to go back to the way it was, so he can do under the table deals and it doesn't have to all be out in the open so everyone can do it. That's just my opinion. I know that's a hot take, but I stand by it. Saban has said that he wants it to be about education, not about who will pay the largest sum of money to a recruit. And to that I say, I got no comment. I don't really know how I feel about that, to be honest. But I think that's a little bit of a stretch. Maybe a tiny little white lie. I don't know. You tell me how you feel about it. It was interesting because I'm going to plug up some clips from the Jimbo Fisher press conference. And he, for the most part, he didn't hold back. He called out Saban. If you remember, he worked under Nick Saban at LSU from like 2000 to 2004. Yeah, 2000 to 2004. And he said, you hear about all these coaches, working under Nick Saban and getting all these other job opportunities. And you know what? He said that it's not, everyone looks at him as the god of college football, right? And he said the reason people leave isn't just because of all these other opportunities they get because they worked under Saban. It's because they don't like the way he runs things, that everything's fishy and it's not good, which is a very interesting take. I had never heard anybody say that before. And he called him out for just the process, the way that he does all these things.
The narcissist in him doesn't allow those things to happen. And it's ridiculous, but when he's not on top.
And the thing is, it's not even just Jimbo Fisher that's firing back at Nick Saban. At this point, you have current NFL players on Twitter posting about this. You have former NFL players, former college players maybe that didn't make it to the NFL, that are calling out Nick Saban on his lies. Nick Saban is saying we never tried to entice a player to come to Alabama with money before this NIL stuff. We never offered them any type of cars or anything like that, like Dodge Chargers. We never did any of that, right? And it's interesting because you have players on Twitter saying, literally guys, saying I am on the practice squad in the NFL and I made more playing at Alabama than I do on the practice squad in the NFL. You have players saying that. And this is players for me, we're talking like 5+ years ago, that are calling his bluff. And the thing is, let's all be honest about this NIL thing. Is it going to ruin college football? I don't think necessarily that it's going to ruin it, but it is definitely going to change it forever. And at this point, the can of worms has already been opened, so it's not as simple as just taking it back. And that would be the wrong decision anyways, because I do believe that the players need to get paid. I do think, me personally, that there needs to be some type of system in place. But when it comes to regulating it, I got to tell you what, I just cannot get on board with the NCAA regulating anything. I'm just not a fan. I'm sorry, because, they're going to want to try to find a way to put some money in their pocket with their greedy little hands. And I don't want the NCAA involved in it. But then there's also the fact that some people say, well, the government's going to have to get involved. Well, boy, oh boy, I'm not going to make this a political video, but let me tell you, anytime the government gets involved, everything goes downhill. So do I want the government to have their hands in college football? Absolutely not. That would change college football for the worse. 100%. So it's interesting because people who have said NIL is going to ruin college football are possibly kind of sort of right to an extent, but it's not necessarily even just because the players are getting paid. It's because of potentially people who are going to get their hands involved in this with trying to regulate it. But also it could potentially pose a problem. Like you have people mentioning tampering, right? So you have coaches that are accusing other coaches of reaching out to players on their roster when they're not even in the transfer portal to entice them to enter the portal to come to their school for money. That's a problem, for sure. I mean, I can acknowledge that. It definitely is. It's the Wild West. And then you have guys. This is an argument that's touchy because let's say you have a guy on the squad that's making $1 million, Bryce Young, but then you have another player, an O-lineman, who, because he's an O-lineman and it's not this, star skill position like QB or wide receiver or running back or something, who only gets $10K. He's putting in the same work. He's also playing for the same team. But then at the same time, that's life. So it's really honestly a tough topic to discuss, and I'm glad that I'm not the one who's making decisions on regulations and things like that, because life isn't a level playing field. It's not even, it's not. Some people your neighbor might make more money than you. It is what it is, and you might have worked harder than him and he still makes more money than you. What are you gonna do? It's life, man. So I don't really know how to regulate it. And I think that's the problem. Nobody does. I know that Jimbo Fisher, in his interview, they kept trying to ask him about regulating it and what should be done and how it should be approached. And he said, I don't know. He said, heck, I'm not smart enough to know. And I was like, I agree, man. I actually agree with a lot of the stuff Jimbo said, but let me tell you something. I'm not a Jimbo Fisher fan, and we are going to spank that booty at College Station. I'm not promising anything yet. We got to see what kind of product we put out on the field. But it's frustrating. And you have guys like I saw Deion Sanders tag John Ruiz on Twitter. You guys know who John Ruiz is, saying hey, let's make something happen for these players. Talking about some NIL deals for some college athletes and whatnot. And when I see Nick Saban talking about Miami, talking about Ruiz, who's trying to go about this the right way. You've got conversations about collectives, and then, Ruiz is talking about doing this through his company, which gives him a return on investment, and he's doing it the right way. They drew up everything. He has a background in law and all this stuff, but it has definitely opened a can of worms that cannot be closed back. And college football is slowly changing, but that process is speeding up quite rapidly here lately, and I don't know if it's for the better or for the worse of the sport, unfortunately. But Nick Saban is causing quite the stir. He's trending on Twitter, and I would say the response is mostly negative. But that's really all I've got to say, guys. I don't quite understand why Nick Saban is defending this so much, his point of view. I don't know why he's choosing to pick this battle and defend it to the death on this hill that he's on. But I guess, the only explanation I have is that it is evening the playing field slightly, because, teams can come in and say, you want to go to Alabama? They're offering you $1 million. Well, we'll offer you $2 million, which could provide for their family, and that kid goes to the other school. But technically, you're not supposed to be able to entice a recruit to get them to come to your school. It should be once they are at the school. And you also can't pay to play. Man, this is just so complex, and it's so tough, even if they decide to regulate it, which again goes back to my point of what I personally think Nick Saban's issue is that maybe he does have good intentions. Now, maybe not, but maybe he does. But at the same time, I think that he's frustrated because the playing field has been leveled, evened out a little bit, and now their little under the table things that they did that was proven to work doesn't work anymore, because anybody can offer up a car for an NIL deal. Anybody can drop 50 grand, 100 grand a year, $1 million+, and they don't even have to hide it. So all of these years, all this time, Nick Saban has used whatever this secret formula process is to land these big-time recruiting classes and to keep guys at Alabama and keep them there longer too, right? A lot of guys end up staying. He's thrown out the window. So now, yes, there are players that will still go to Alabama anyways because they've been winning national championships. They've been putting guys in the league. But he can't get them there with under-the-table cash deals, money deals, whatever, car deals, any of that stuff. Well, he can, not enticing them, but once they're there, he can, but so can everybody else in the college football world. So my question to you is, how do you feel about all this? And also, is the Nick Saban era over? Did he pick the wrong fight? Is Alabama's reign over and done? Make sure you leave a comment down below. What a hot, juicy topic. I gave my opinion, my take on it. I'm sure there will be many, many more conversations about this, guys. We'll talk about it on some live streams. We'll talk about it in some more videos, and more information is going to come out. You best believe. After those statements that Jimbo Fisher made, there's going to be some people digging. There's going to be some stuff posted online by some, anonymous people, or maybe some people that just don't give a crap anymore and want to come forward and say some stuff. But these things have been happening, guys. It's not even just been Nick Saban and Alabama. I'm not a conspiracy theory person. I'm not. But I can promise you that there is probably, I'm going to be honest, I don't think there's a single coach in all of college football that has 100% played by the rules. It just doesn't happen. I don't care what any of them say. None of them have always played by the rules. There's always some under the table stuff happening. There's always some secret conversations and all that stuff going on in college football. And some of it's about to come to the light. You're going to see really soon. I hope this doesn't ruin college football, but we'll see. But I do stand behind the players getting paid, and I do think they need to be compensated in some sort of way financially. Leave a comment, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Can we do the Go Canes? Hold on. Can we do the outro? Oh gosh, we're on a hill. Let me see. Remember though, guys, we're all one big happy college football family, but at the end of the day, I gotta say, it's always better when you get to rep the U. Coach Coop, peace out.